Dear Sir and or Madam, this is a podcast. And that's basically all I've got for an intro. That's it. Welcome, Josh Allen, Mike B. Don't get your hopes up.
Yeah.
And we're done here.
It's a... We're pumped through the show and it's like, hey, we're done. Oh, okay.
Oh.
Wow.
My cat chose that exact moment to throw a bike rack and a lasagna pan on the floor. So...
why are these two things together?
They're in boxes sitting on the table because I haven't done anything with them yet. I did the typical thing where you order something from Amazon and you get it and you're like, oh yeah, open up the Amazon box and you pull it out. You're like, yeah. Then you set it down somewhere and go, oh, I'll do something with it later.
Wait, was it the boxes she was getting into?
They're still in the boxes. By the way, I got both of them before I went to England. So
wow.
I'm pretty much using the Steam approach to Amazon at this point, where I just buy things on Amazon and then never actually use them.
Yes.
Man, I really need a bike rack. Oh, it's just a great idea. I'll play it later.
I have so many things like that. It's like, oh man, what a great price. I should totally get this thing. Especially photography crap. It's like, I buy this crap and I never use it.
Yeah.
It's like, damn,
I had to stop looking at sites like Woot because they would be like, here you go. It's a toe hair remover for only $5. And I'd be like, oh, I get toe hairs sometimes.
What a slamming deal.
Yeah. Totally picking that up.
Only works on toe hairs.
Yeah. It doesn't work on any other kind of hair.
Incompatible with other.
You get it, and right on the box it says, like, attuned to the unique structure of toe hair or something like that. The unique chemistry of toe hairs.
Yeah.
They would probably call it something more scientific, like pedio hair. I don't know what the word for hair would be, but... Pedio follicles.
Yeah, I was gonna say follicles is perfect. Yes. Pedio, yeah.
Yeah.
This is a good idea. It's probably already done.
Yeah. So, none of that is what we were supposed to talk about. Thanks, my cat, for derailing the conversation. Some big shit went down today.
Dun dun dun.
Literally today. Like, yes, but also so the FCC defined broadband as being 25 megabits per second down and 4 megabits per second up. And right now, if you're not like too in tune with what the FCC does and what that means, you're just like, okay, yeah, obviously. Like, okay, yeah, that sounds like broadband. Those are broadband speeds. But the reason this is really super important is because what the FCC defines as broadband, that sort of decides what people are allowed to advertise their products as.
Mm-hmm.
So if I am and it's also what they're categorized as for other legal reasons. So if I'm an ISP and I've been saying, hey, everybody, get broadband internet, only $2 a month or something like that. And then you get it and it's like 4 megs down and 1 meg up or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll be like, this is some shitty broadband. And you're true. It's correct. It's some shitty broadband. But now it's no longer broadband. They can't say that it's broadband internet anymore. They have to say that it's just an internet connection or something like that. Yep. Or, I don't know, thin band or something. I don't know what you call it.
Relatively girthy band. They'll probably call it. When I first saw this, I took the immediate it was a cool thing, but I was like, oh, it's so cynical. It's like they'll probably just rename it something else, like and then they'll just pass it off as that.
They call it wideband or something.
Yeah, or just basic high speed internet.
Yeah,
it's I think it's also, isn't it 3 megs up? That it was like 25 down, 3 up, which
it is 3 up. Yeah,
which is still, I mean,
it's still good.
And any of you guys who are basically living on DSL, like, that this is like a pretty major change. Will it change your internet? No.
Yeah, probably not. Like if you're on a slow connection right now. So there's several ways that this could go for the ISPs that now no longer qualify as broadband. Several ways that this could go. It could be that all of those ISPs are just dicks, and this entire time they've been able to give you faster speeds. They've just been throttling you to get you to pay for higher packages.
Mm-hmm. Likely.
So yeah. That's fairly likely. And it does mean that now if you're a Comcast customer or something and you're on their low-end broadband package, they will probably, so that they can continue calling it a broadband package and don't have to deal with the sort of embarrassment of being like, well, now it's just called other band or something. They might decide to bump it up as a result of that if you're on one of the low-tier packages at this point.
Mm-hmm.
This is possible. They may decide to charge you more in the process. So they might do something like say, we're no longer offering the 10 megs down package. Now you have to get this other one that's $60 or something like that. But anyway, like it's possible that either of those sorts of things could happen. It's possible that they could just bump up your internet speed. Or they might decide, well, screw it, we're just going to be thin band now. And that I'm just going to call it thin band from now on.
That works.
It could say that we're just going to be thin band now, and that's sort of how things will go.
Mm-hmm.
And they will probably lose at least some business in the process because what they have can no longer be called broadband. And people will be like, well, I want broadband, and this doesn't say broadband. And eventually, like especially depending on the media coverage that this particular story gets.
Yes. Yeah, that's the key.
Yeah. Like that could end up being something that people are like, I heard this, I saw on Fox News that broadband, so can I please broadband? And yeah.
Oh my God, yes.
Although I'm sure if Fox News covered this, they'd be like, the stupid FCC that did the thing that we hate because they're totally in Big Cable's pocket.
This is like, if they create a buzzword out of it, right? Which broadband is already pretty well known as a word, right? But
Yeah.
speaking from from a customer or from a retailer or just sales perspective, like if a customer comes in and they have like that buzzword, you have to break them of that buzzword in order to sell them on the product that fits for them or the product that you're trying to basically push, right?
Yeah.
A perfect example for me, like when I was selling computers, people would come in and they would ask, is it a Centrino system? Like, is it a Centrino? I was like, yeah, it's a Pentium M and it's Wi-Fi, because Centrino wasn't a chip. It was a system, right? It was a combination of things that they basically just said, yes, it has Wi-Fi and it has the Pentium M processor. It is Centrino. And they would say, is it Centrino? I was like, well, yeah, it's a Pentium M and all this stuff. I was like, yeah, but is it a Centrino? Oh, actually, no, it would be flip side. It would say Centrino on a sticker, but it wouldn't say like Pentium M or whatever. And they would say, is it Pentium? It's like, yes, it's a fucking Pentium. Yes, it's a Pentium. It's like, but it's a Centrino. Breaking people.
There's this other word here that I've decided is mutually exclusive. Please explain to me.
Yeah, breaking people of those. Like, once people get those words in their head, it's hard to break them of that. So yeah, it's definitely possible, given the amount of coverage that I could get, because this news just came out today while we're recording this. But it's if it turns into a buzzword thing, which I don't really think it will.
Yeah, I kind of don't think it will either.
That would be the only way that would really hurt them. I don't think it's really going to have as big of an impact, except for those who are like tech savvy.
Yeah. The big thing with this, though, so the reason that like Time Warner and Cox and Comcast get away with having this agreement to never go into, like having this actual agreement to never go into each other's areas and never actually compete with each other, and it's just sort of like, oh, we'll stick around over, like, it's very rare if it occurs at all. It's certainly never occurred any place that I'm aware of, that you have a choice between like Cox and Comcast, or you have a choice between like Time, like I guess Time Warner and Cox like bleeds over a little bit sometimes, but it's relatively rare. Like Cox and Comcast in particular are the two that you just never see them competing with each other. And the reason for that is they actually have an agreement. They said, we will not compete with each other because as a result of us not competing with each other, we will be able to charge higher prices for our products. That's what's known as a monopoly in most of the universe. That's what you would refer to as a monopoly. And generally speaking, the FCC or I forget the name of the organization, some sort of government organization is supposed to step in and say, hey, no, stop it. You're doing this. We can tell that you're doing this. And if you don't start competing in each other's regions, we're going to assume that you're continuing, like, as long as you continue to have these hard lines between your regions, we're going to assume that you're continuing to obey this contract that you've written up. We will call you a monopoly, and we will, like, they can go as far in some cases as shutting the business down and saying, sorry, you're not allowed to operate in the United States anymore, sort of thing. The reason they get away with that is because there are everywhere on the entire, like, absolutely everywhere, there will be crappy little ISPs that can do the previous definition of broadband, which is 4 megs down and 1 megs up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as long as you can do that, at least, as long as there's someone in that area somewhere that can do that, then you can say, oh no, there's other ISPs that are available to X percentage of our customers. There's plenty of broadband available in this region. Oh. We're not a monopoly. There's all sorts of competition. Never mind the fact that if you want to get any speeds faster than 4 down and 1 up, then you have to go to these guys. That doesn't actually matter. By the previous definition and by just the way that monopoly laws work, that you're just getting better broadband at that point.
Yeah.
So by changing this definition to say, no, broadband now is 25 down and 4 up, that means that all of a sudden all of those ISPs, those other ISPs, either A, have to actually provide a competing product, which 25 down and 4 up is not bad for 99% of what, like, if you want to be a serious hardcore streamer, you're going to want a little more than 4 up.
More than 4, yeah.
Yeah, but otherwise, like, that's fine. Like, you can watch Netflix on that, no problem. You can, for the average person listening to this podcast, 25 down, 4 up is passable.
Yep.
Maybe not like, if you got suddenly on a 100 down and up connection, you'd be like, holy crap, the internet's so fast now. This is the best thing ever. But you wouldn't hate yourself for being on 25 down and 4 up.
Yeah, there's nothing on Twitch or YouTube or Netflix that you couldn't watch without buffering issues.
Yeah, and in fact, that 25 down and 4, or excuse me, 25 down and 3 up. I keep saying 4 because in the URL for this article it says 4, but in the actual article it says 3. But if you, like, 25 down and 3 up, 20% of the country doesn't have that right now.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of people probably even listening to this that don't have, like, not even that they don't have it, can't get it. Just not available. Internet speeds that fast are not available in their area. So that's a big deal, and it means that now, if like Cox and Comcast and to some degree Time Warner continue to operate on their little party lines, they'll be a monopoly, and they'll officially be a monopoly, and the government will step in and have to do something about it. So that's good news, because competition, or lack thereof, is exactly why the internet situation in the United States is so crappy right now.
Yeah, it's right now there's competition, like, not just with, like, small. I'm trying really hard to find the names here, but there's another one that's local here that does DSL. And it's just super low speeds, man. And it's just like these little shops that, they open up, they support, like, small areas. Like, for this one, it's just, like, basically Berkeley, and I think that's pretty much it. That's like nothing, but that's competition. Uverse is basically everywhere, I think.
Yeah.
Did you have Uverse when you were over in Michigan?
No, I never had Uverse.
But you probably had some other major, like, Verizon DSLers, like Fios or something.
Yeah, actually, thinking about it very briefly, like, when I first moved to my uncle's place, he had, like, a crappy little AT&T internet connection, and I was like, this will not do. So I pretty quickly got Comcast out there. There was another local DSL provider called Jazz Networks that was just one of the crappy little local ones that I used for a while because Comcast wasn't available in the apartment building I was in. But in that area, it's Comcast or your internet sucks. Like, those are your two options.
Pretty much. Yeah, so I found it. So it's called LMI, and it's it's basically, I mean, it's slow. It's a 20 megabits down, and I think up was like under a meg or something like that, depending on where you're at. But like most of the time, DSL doesn't classify itself as broadband because broadband has kind of been looked at as, oh, it's cable, it's cable, it's cable. So I think most of them are pretty much like in the clear. But God, I just wish, I just hope that this ruling, because it's not the first time it's happened. Like it just happens every once in a while. They update the terminology to equal this, right?
Yeah.
I just hope that maybe this time there will be some kind of impact or change. But I just can't help but to think that it's not going to mean shit in the long run because Comcast and Cox and all of them, Time Warner, like they're just too big, essentially.
Yeah. So in most the most likely scenario, I think, is that the vast majority of these ISPs that maybe right now they're calling themselves broadband, maybe they're not, like you said, are gonna say, 25 down, 3 up. We just can't get that out of this DSL connection, so we're gonna stay how we are. Like AT&T and Verizon are kind of screwed by this if they ever want to call anything broadband, but I don't think they usually do. But if they ever want to call themselves broadband, then they will have to speed it up. The important thing is really just that antitrust, anti-monopoly angle here. If none of those ISPs decide that they're going, like if literally 0 ISPs increase their speed as a result of this, Cox and Comcast have to start competing with each other. Have to. They will not have an option. They will no longer be able to say we're going to just stick in our own little territories because there's all these there's competition here, because there isn't. There's no longer any other broadband available in that area.
Yeah, that's true. That's actually real. That's probably the best thing to come out of this. You're right. It's that if no new competition comes and because of that, as a result of this, then yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, like there will be competition one way or another. Either it's going to be that the little ISPs or the non monopoly ISPs, the non-big cable ISPs, start saying that no, actually we're broadband and we're going to buff up our internet connection to a point where now, even if you yourself say 25 down and 3 up is not good enough for me, it will be good enough for enough other people that if it's offered at a low enough price, people will say, screw it, I'm not using Comcast and paying $80 a month for this connection. I'm going to go over to this other one that's 30, sort of thing.
And what's interesting too is I know everyone's probably read the stories about a broadband provider getting pushed out of a region because it cannot, because Comcast will not let them use their lines. And, like they'll basically lawsuit them out of the business or out of the region. This would actually make if no competition just kind of just kind of comes out just naturally, then they would actually be like, hey, we'll offer you these lines for cheaper. That way we can you could come on board, you could get this. They might throttle them or something, but they'll get them over the hump to get them as official broadband, and then they could say, okay, now you're providing broadband, now you're competition. It's shittier than ours, but at least it's technically competition.
Yeah, that's kind of the big that's kind of the big sticking point, really, is that like that's why this is only a good step in the right direction and not an instant win. Yes. Is that Cox and Comcast and Time Warner own all of the cable lines, and even in the handful of places where they do compete with each other, generally speaking, they like one of them will have the cable lines in that area and they let the other ones use it. For a low rate because they're busy not competing with each other so that they can all make as much money as possible. So that does cause that problem where, sure, maybe places can't actually get fast enough, and so Cox and Comcast kind of hold the rope there a little bit, which is a problem. I think that if nothing else, like Comcast is going to have to create these. They're going to have to almost like subsidize, which actually that brings to me another point I'll get to in a second. They're going to have to almost like subsidize out these other little MP3s. Why was that? Where did that word even come from? Other little ISPs. And say, okay, well, we'll let you use our lines for this amount, and you're going to make this much. But it's going to have to be enough that those people are still willing to even do business. Because if they're not going to make money, then they're not going to bother. Mm-hmm. So I'm not entirely sure how that would work out. The other thing that just reminded me of, as I said the word subsidize, is that the government has been doing like major work towards trying to get more broadband across the country because they recognize that the internet in our country is shit compared to elsewhere.
Yep.
Not only is it slower than a lot of other countries, but it's faster in a lot of areas too. But as a general average, it's slower than most other countries. And it costs more than most other countries. We pay through the nose for worse service here. And it's really shitty. So they've been doing a lot of government subsidizing to say, we're going to give you this massive bonus. I don't remember if it's like a tax deduction or something. It's a government subsidy of some kind, where you just make a lot more money if your internet qualifies as broadband. And so now that the FCC has said that broadband is 25 down and 3 up, if you don't meet that criteria, you don't get this subsidy. So even if AT&T and Verizon aren't calling their stuff broadband right now, that's only half of it. Like, even if the buzzword broadband doesn't really take off, they're going to start losing a lot of government money that they would have been getting otherwise.
Yeah.
And they were getting up until now because their internet's too slow. So I do think, like, based on that, I do think that we will see a lot of companies try to boost their internet speeds up more, and we'll just see what happens as a result of that. But it's good news. It's good news. Stuff is happening at the very least. The FCC is doing things that are good for the consumer, which is its job. So thanks, guys, I guess.
Yep. I love my internet speeds. I hate Comcast. And it's like, I would love to be able to swap, but unfortunately, because of the way the system works, there's just nothing out there that's even remotely comparable. So I'm looking forward to what they plan. Or what could happen.
Exactly. Yeah, like even if internet speeds don't get faster, the only thing that comes out of this, like there's got to be some impact somewhere. And it may just end up being that Cox and Comcast have to drop their bills by like $5 a month or something like that, but $5 a month stacks up, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is that I wasn't able to find it in this one article I was reading, but apparently the FCC is looking at this as like a first step, because they bumped the last time they bumped up the definition of broadband.
It's 2010.
It was 2010, and then they had done it in 2008, immediately before then. In 2008, they said it was 786 kilobits per second down. In 2010, they increased that to 4 megabits per second down, and now they bumped it up to 25. I'm hearing a lot of speculation from various sources, and I wasn't able to find like an actual serious article that said, no, here is exactly where they said that they're planning to do this. So it may just be hearsay. But from the sounds of things, they're actually looking to bump this up to 100 megabits down at some point.
See, now that would be phenomenal.
That's a game changer.
That's and God, and you know what? Now I kind of feel like an asshole because I'm sitting on 105 or whatever, like the stupid extreme bullshit. And it's like, it's like, oh, but 25, that's cool. It's like I'm trying to be sympathetic to it because I know there are people out there who don't have access to 105. Wherever they may live, no matter who they go with. So the 25, I get it. 25 is probably a pretty big deal for them. Yeah. But to see it mandated to like a minimum of 105, like or 100, like that would be obviously a game changer for me. I consider myself a power user. I think the average power user would have a minimum of what I have, right? If it's available. And if this is like, if my 105 that I'm paying extra for is like, bottom of the bucket in terms of like, or bottom of the barrel in terms of, internet speed, then
you're now at the shit tier.
I know, exactly. Then it's like, oh, okay, now this is benefiting me entirely. So that putting it in that perspective, it's like, that makes a lot more sense because I'm looking at it more from like, if I'm living in rural Oregon or something, then it's like, I may not have amazing internet defined as broadband, but it could actually mean a change with that big of a jump, or even at 25, of course. But still, damn, man, don't get my hopes up like that. Come on.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was something that they, like, if they want to get to that goal, if it's something they increase gradually over the next several years.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, in 2 years, they say, all right, now it's 50. and then 2 years later they say, well, now it's 100, sort of thing, because like there is a lot of infrastructure that has to go into place to make that jump. And if they were to say right now, like if they today said, instead of 25 they said 100, what would have happened is everyone would have gone, what the fuck? And like the result would have been, instead of trying to increase their infrastructure to get to the point where they can start getting these government subsidies again, they just said, well, now we just have to find a way to make more money. We're going to raise our prices on this crappy internet, sort of thing. Because the government subsidies aren't worth the investment that it's going to take to lay all the infrastructure necessary for all of these ISPs to get up to 100.
Yep.
So I wouldn't be surprised if it's a slow rollout sort of thing.
Yeah, of course.
But it's good that this is still happening, and that, because it's been 5 years since the last time they bumped this up, from
and it's
a
a
2 year gap
super
before.
like, if you think about it, like going from 84 to 786 to 4 megs, and then from 4 megs 25, like these are, you know, pretty close to equal jumps in terms of like, you know, how they increase.
Yeah.
So it's,
and actually,
so like the next
at,
one going up another 4 times, like that's pretty reasonable to think.
Yeah, that's actually right in line with it, because like 786, just under 1 meg, goes up to 4. That's like a 5 times increase, roughly thereabout. 4 going up to 25 is also a little bit over a 5 times increase.
Yeah, it's like 6, but still it's like 5-year gap versus 2.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe the next time they'll do it right. 5 times increase again. Now it's got to be 125, sort of thing. That wouldn't be too bad at all.
Talk about internet all day, man.
Yeah. Internet. But yeah, so that's some big news, and it's exciting. And yeah. In other news that's less exciting, AOL is shutting down Joystiq, apparently.
God.
That kind of came out of like, I guess it's not terribly surprising, because you kind of wonder, like, AOL's been running Joystiq and all of its subsidies, so like Massively, WoW Insider, all those sites, has been running them for ages, but it's AOL, so you're like, where is this money coming from? Is AOL still making money these days?
They're still getting that $14.99 a month, man.
Yeah,
from like, dial-up users.
And recently they had some sort of something happen with their stock prices, where it just like their stock got downgraded basically, and the stock prices have been falling like crazy. So now they're like, oh my god, the shareholders, and they need to find a way to reaffirm everybody that no, we're gonna make money, and apparently the way that they're going to make money is by shutting down a large portion of I don't really fully understand it myself.
Yeah, so yeah, you're right. Like everybody, they downloaded their their stock, but it's like their credit or something. Like this happened to another company, another big company that got downgraded. And basically what it means is it basically it's like they say, they refer to it as like their credits. Now I'm not familiar with stocks or any of this credit bullshit, but essentially, it's basically saying you're kind of shittier company than you were the last time we looked at you.
You're not on the who's who list anymore. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
You've been downgraded from flyweight to super flyweight or whatever.
Now, when this gets released tomorrow morning, we'll see some movement and some things happening, because right now technically it's still a rumor, but everybody's accepted as fact. It is going to happen. AOL is not commenting on it. Everyone accepted it is absolutely going to happen. There are preparations that are being made, and of course, like I mean, if you were working for Massively or Joystiq or anybody, wouldn't you like look at this as, oh well, then I should absolutely go and start finding another job? Because
sure.
You
like even
know.
if you haven't been told, but even if your only awareness of this is you saw the article on Polygon, like
I know.
You're gonna be like, well, shit, this might be true, so I should start preparing for if it's true, sort of thing. And like, it's certainly something that the like writers and authors and employees seem to find believable enough that they're acting on.
Yes, and it's kind of shitty that the people who have been there for so long don't actually know for sure.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason why is because they probably don't have a very good line of communication with people at America Online.
Yeah, probably not.
I'd imagine, if you read up on AOL's history, like that's a revolving door company, man. Like people are going in and out of that place. I'd imagine that it's probably difficult to manage or to keep people on a site as I hate to say as small because it's totally not, but I guess you could say it's like Joystiq. If somebody on that staff like was working with Joystiq directly and then they left and somebody else came on, they're like, "What's a video game?" Yeah, it's like, "Oh, this site makes money. Okay, cool. Well, whatever." And they kind of just like let it do its thing, and they don't really communicate with them. Then that's pretty much it. It's left to its own devices. And if they can't get an answer from AOL, a public answer or response, an update somewhere, then that tells me that there is nobody there communicating with them directly.
Yeah, either that or they asked, like they have a contact, they asked, and the person they asked just went, like, if so, say you work for somebody, say you have a job, right? I know this is crazy. Say you have an employer. Like I go to my boss tomorrow and I say, "Hey, am I getting fired today?" He goes, "No." I'm like, "Okay, cool. Moving on." But if I am getting fired that day and he just doesn't want to tell me yet because he doesn't want, like, he's still getting ready to clear out my desk while I'm at lunch or something.
What makes your security standing by?
Yeah. Like, he can't tell me no because then he can't fire me that day.
Yeah. This is actually, like, very true.
Yeah. Like, if Joystiq goes to AOL and says, "Are you shutting us down?" and AOL isn't shutting them down, they're just going to say, "No, we're not shutting you down. What's wrong with you? Get back to work." Like, that's how that conversation goes. Mm-hmm. But if Joystiq goes to AOL and says, "Are you shutting us down?" and AOL is shutting them down, AOL can't say no because then they can't shut them down. Like, legally, they cannot. They have now, like, affirmed that this is not going to happen, so now we cannot shut them down. So they're just going to not respond. And that seems to be more or less what's happening here, is that, like, Joystiq is saying, "Well, no one's told us what's going on. We don't know what's happening." Because you're not going to just sit there and go, "Well, no one's approached me. No one sent me an email yet that says we're shutting down. There's this rumor going around. I should just sit here and wait to see if an email shows up." No, you're going to, like, who's the guy that I talk to at AOL ever? Who's the guy that I know who talks to AOL at some point ever, sort of thing. So yeah, it's a very believable rumor, I would say.
Yes, yeah, I definitely think it's gonna happen. I think that the people there, if you think about it, there's Joystiq, and there's Massively, and then there's WoW Insider. These are very, very isolated sites, in my opinion. Like when if you know people at Massively, they're usually just a different crowd than what you see at at WoW Insider. And then Joystiq is like, I don't go to Joystiq for anything, but I go to WoW Insider for stuff. So it's just like, I think that each group is probably going to have their own way of playing this out. Some of them, obviously, are going to probably already looking for other positions. Yeah. Yeah, it sucks because by the time like people start getting around to listen to this, like there's probably already something happening on that front. I'm certain there will be. But man, tomorrow's gonna be an interesting day.
Yeah, definitely.
Because
if AOL's doing anything at this point, they are going to. If AOL is shutting them down, they're going to do it very quickly from here on, because they know that every second they don't like pull everybody's access and everything and actually shut down the sites, that's people like going through and pulling data. That's people using what they can of their emails to go through and get contacts and everything. That's like potential competition popping up. That's potential like theft of information and so on.
Yeah.
Like when you shut down major sites like this, you kind of want to do it in a there it is, it's done sort of thing as quickly as possible.
Yeah, God, man.
So AOL is going to have to act quickly at this point, basically.
Yeah, well, quickly is going to be Friday when they initially said they were going to do it. Like WoW Insider has like 100,000 Twitter followers. Joystiq has 313,000 Twitter followers. Like this is a lot, man. Like I find it really hard to believe that at least I know people go to Joystiq for stuff. It just happens to not be where I go. I go to like Polygon and obviously Zam, right? But I mean, it's like I don't like it, but I know that these sites are fucking popular.
I think the problem. I think Polygon killed Joystiq in a way, because it used to be there was Kotaku and Joystiq, and if you liked Kotaku and the way that they present their news, if you're okay with Gawker, you went to Kotaku.
Mm-hmm.
If you weren't okay with Gawker, you went to Joystiq, because that was the other option. Then a whole bunch of people from Joystiq said, you know what? I'm kind of fed up of being under the AOL umbrella. They went and founded Polygon. And so now, if you're not cool with Gawker, you go to Polygon, because it's like, as much as Joystiq has been a fixture in the gaming blog like landscape for ages, Polygon's better. It's just a better site.
Yeah, I mean, just like open them up like side by side in a browser and just look at the design. Like Kotaku is just garbage.
If you still can at the point of this podcast.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Go find a screenshot of Joystiq.
Aww.
Yeah. But yeah, and like we know that there was some, because remember, like WoW Insider and Massively both ended up having to get rid of a bunch of staff like a
right
year or so
before
ago.
WAD launch. Like that was like such a huge flag. It was like a red flag for me. I was like, AOL has no idea what they're doing with this.
Yeah.
Why would they do this right before the launch of such a major expansion, or just an expansion period?
Yeah,
Sorry,
I got the impression that it was a Joystiq wide thing, because it hit Massively also, and I don't know if it hit people at Joystiq, but like obviously I know people that worked at those places at the time that were no longer able to work there. And so it was like the sort of thing where it's like, okay, this. I don't think that was particularly you know what, this WoW site isn't doing very well, so let's shut down this WoW site, or like cut the budget on this WoW site sort of thing. I think it was just that like Joystiq wasn't performing very well across the board, and so they cut the budget to try and be like, okay, just slim things down as much as you can, and we'll see what happens as a result of that. And then after this whole stock thing got downgraded, they had to do something to appease the shareholders. So they just probably went, right, well, remember that thing that wasn't performing very well? We've decided we're not going to give them as much of a chance as we thought we would. They're dead now, sort of thing. Which sucks, but there's no rest of that sentence. It sucks.
Yeah, that's the thing. It just sucks. Oh man, like how do they find out? Like through a Polygon ad or article or something? Like how did the rumor even start? All I know is I woke up Monday morning, or it was Monday morning, and there was shit in my mailbox that was saying, "Hey, shit's going down."
Yeah, and there was an article on Joystiq that was like, they linked to some other site, because that's all honestly that's all they've really been doing for ages, is linking to other sites. But they like linked to some other site, and they were like, this other site has this rumor that Joystiq is being shut down. We're going to comment on it the same way we would any other news. Sources within Joystiq say that they haven't been told by management yet if anything like this is happening, which is funny because you're reading it on Joystiq. But it was like, I think it was sort of like, as sad as it is to see Joystiq shutting down, and especially like personally for me as a member of the WoW community team, or like seeing, and just a member of the WoW community in general, like seeing WoW Insider get hit, and as a gamer seeing Massively and even Joystiq get hit. Like Massively and WoW Insider to me have been more useful than Joystiq itself for a long time.
Yes.
But like seeing those sites get caught up in the crossfire in this whole thing, like it sucks, and I'm sad about that. But at the same time, like, I thought it was really indicative of the problem when you're seeing people on Twitter going, what? Joystiq's shutting down, and they're linking to a Polygon or a Kotaku article every single time. It's like, okay, yeah. On the one hand, I understand. Yeah, on the one hand, it sucks that Joystiq is shutting down, but on the other hand, this obviously isn't where you get your news. Like, you're pretty clearly you got this from Kotaku, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So best of luck to anybody affected by this. Obviously, like it's sort of one of those jobs that you get and you're like chasing your dream and you're like, yeah, I work as a games journalist and so on. It's really, really, it's a good, and it's something that a lot of people really, really enjoy doing. So best of luck to them in finding new homes. It's a hard industry to really make it in because there's only so many outlets and so many places that will actually hire games writers,
And everyone is a writer.
and everyone is a writer. Yeah,
That's the hardest part. It's like it's already bleeding over into videos. It's like everybody's making videos now. It's like
Yeah.
it's hard, man.
yeah. Like, and there's
the quality, obviously not speak to quality. It's really just like it's hard because it's saturated, man. Like as a veteran producer, it is fucking saturated, man. Like everybody makes music.
yeah, exactly. And like at a point when it gets so saturated, it doesn't matter if you're coming up with the best music ever. You have to hope you get noticed because that's the only way anything gets done. Like right now, you can be the most amazing games writer ever. You could, but if you don't have a ton of stuff that says you're an amazing games writer and people don't know your name, you're just yet another page in the stack
You're a
of resumes
blogger.
that someone has to go through.
Yep. You have a Tumblr.
Yeah. It can be a really great Tumblr too, but like if I'm hiring a writer for something, I'm going to get 1,000 resumes and I'm going to have to get through those. And so I'm just going to be looking through them for names that I recognize. And that sucks, but that's how things are. So best of luck to all these guys.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Jesus. Yeah, I tomorrow. I'm like excited for tomorrow. I mean,
I can't wait for Joystick to get shut
I
down.
mean, like, I'm anticipating, what's gonna happen, like what direction some of these guys go and how they approach certain things. All I can say is, whatever WoW Insider decides to do, because I know that's a tight knit group there. Like Wowhead is definitely gonna be behind them. As long as they, don't do anything weird, but for the most part, I don't want to commit to anything. But like, Wowhead and obviously Zam as a whole, we're definitely there to, I don't know.
As long as Alex
Tell
Siebert
people.
doesn't take the opportunity to go stripping through the quad or something.
I mean, hey man, if that brings the money in, I mean, whatever you gotta do, But we're
Starts punching kittens.
that was like
for
the
a
first
living.
discussion that we had as Wowhead was
Punching kittens?
punching kittens.
Okay.
And it was punching kittens first. That was the appetizer to the discussion.
No.
And
Your discussions have appetizers?
what could we potentially? Yeah, of course, dude. Come on, how do you work into it?
I had those when I was there.
What's that?
I never had those when I was there.
Well, you left, and so
Oh,
things
okay.
change. But no, it's the discussion that we had was basically like, what can we do? Like, so Perk and Olivia, who run Wowhead, like they came up with a document of just kind of like, what can we do to like help them? What can we do in this situation? Because we're all part of the same community,
Yeah.
MMO Champion, WowDB, Wowhead, obviously, your WoW Insider, like we're still all part of like the same community. So if one of us starts to fail, like that's something that is going to impact all of us. It doesn't necessarily mean, oh, we're going to get all the traffic, ha 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 ha. No, because WoW Insider provided a service that was unique in this field.
Yeah.
Because they would take. So Wowhead, we have news that comes out like multiple times a day, like all the time. WoW Insider takes it and they take one chunk of that, that data pool or whatever it is that we're talking about, and then they would create a piece around it. So how this impacts that person. Like they had a piece on phishing the other day.
Yeah.
And it's just like
they're like the only site that's really doing like regular high traffic, high quality editorial content.
Mm-hmm.
for
Exactly.
WoW.
Yeah. And so that hurts because there is nobody else doing that. And we had talked about, it's like, well, could we do that like at Wowhead? It's like, no, it wouldn't really fit. It would not fit. Well, it would not fit in the traditional sense of like how our site is designed and how we deliver content. And it's like, well, what can we do? And it's like, it sucks. It sucks to be in a position where it's like one of your colleagues is essentially failing and there's like, potential, like almost nothing you could do, for them.
Yeah. Yep. It sucks. It doesn't suck though.
Well, wait, hold on a second. No. I gotta tell you before we move on, I gotta tell you about how I found out that CompUSA was closing.
Was it that you showed up and your key didn't work?
No. My key still works.
You showed up and all of the stuff was on the sidewalk with a sign that says, "I'm leaving you, move out."
Even better. Actually, no, that's pretty good. This may not be quite as good. It was the middle of a day. It was like a weekday or something. And Todd, I remember it was Todd. He's working in cameras. He's a cop now. So obviously this whole thing that closed down didn't really affect his life very much.
Of course, if his name was Todd, he's
I know. It's a cop, Todd.
Todd.
He's working in the camera department and he called me over and I'm like, what's up, dude? I'm trying to because we would check stock sometimes using the website instead of using our internal inventory system because sometimes inventory would be wrong, which is really dumb, right? And so he would check the website and see if we had it or if like the Vegas store had it because we were in Vegas, we were in Henderson, right? It was outside of Vegas, and so he pulled it up. He's all like, "Yeah," and I noticed that our store's not here, like it's not on the list. And I was like, "Oh, that's really weird. Like, look for something else." And so we tried all this stuff and we tried to find, we basically, all they did was they took us off of the fucking search on the CompUSA.com, man. That's how we found out we were closing. Like, we're like, wait a minute. And then we looked and we were like, whoa, hold on a second, go to Phoenix. So Phoenix had like a handful of stores. And so we went to Phoenix and we looked for stores down there. And it was like one store. There used to be like 5 or something. And we're like, why is it that like all these random stores everywhere are like disappearing? And yeah, we made a couple calls and it was like, oh yeah, so we're closing. Surprise! Yeah, so that was awesome. Sorry, but yeah, they didn't leave all our stuff on the sidewalk with a sign. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, that would have been how I would have gone out if I was CompUSA. Not really. So anyway, yeah, this whole thing sucks. Speaking of things that don't suck, I liked that segue, so I went back to it.
Yeah, I saw that. Thank you.
Speaking of things that don't suck. You and I got a chance to play some H1Z1.
Yes.
And it didn't suck.
It did not suck, man. When I got it, remember I was like, I'm going to cry. Remember, I was like, I'm going to cry because the frames are so good. I was actually welling up a little bit.
It was like, like you're sitting there playing and you hear this like chorus of angels crying out. Turns out they were zombies, but still, like, you're just like, this is exactly what I wanted DayZ to be, sort of thing.
I know.
Obviously, there's a ton of differences between H1Z1 and DayZ.
Yeah, so hold your comments. Hold on, do we reply yet?
Yeah.
Hold on. Yes, we recognize that there is definitely more of an arcadey feel to H1, to HIZZI, we'll call it.
HIZZI.
Would you agree with arcadey? Like, kind of like arcade style? Like, more of a arcadey approach.
Yeah, I would honestly, I wouldn't say arcadey because I don't know. I would just go ahead and call it more casual. Like, I'm okay with just calling it a casual DayZ.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we need to hide behind weird. No. It's arcadey. It's
well because it's not quite as survival oriented as DayZ. Like DayZ, you could play for hours and hours and hours and still be running around with a fucking fire extinguisher.
That's true.
That's not the case with HIZZI. You could get right in, shred your clothes, pick up some sticks, boom, bow and arrows.
Yeah.
And so that to me, it's like when you're equipping a player to, with like guns and everything, like right off the bat, like that's leaning more towards the arcadey side of survival. Which I realize it's kind of a convoluted term when you can use it.
Yeah,
for
everything, I guess thinking about it, the vast majority of DayZ I played was on like the 500 plus vehicle spawn servers. I didn't play nearly as much of the standalone, because I don't know, like I played the mod until I got tired of the survival side of things. Like I just eventually
Got tired of like starving or bleeding,
yeah,
breaking
like I
a
was
leg.
eventually like I've done this. I'm over this now. And then I started playing on the okay, this is more of like a deathmatch-ish sort of server where you get in and you've got to find stuff and then go hunting for people, and it's super scary until you get the stuff, and then like it's all about the PvP sort of thing. And I played that for a long time because that was really fun. And then the standalone came out, and I was like, actually, I kind of miss when I could just run around and pick up stuff, but like I missed that style of gameplay, which is a lot of what H1Z1 actually provides. Is that sort of like you can get in, you can arm yourself relatively quickly, especially since like when we were playing the other day, loot was broken.
That's true, yeah.
But now they've significantly increased the amount of loot you can actually get. So it's still a little bit tricky to find guns. I've been finding. It's possibly that I just don't know where they spawn. In fact, I don't know where they spawn. I did eventually find a pistol the other day, and I was like, yeah! But
yeah, I'm dead.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, like it's the sort of like get in, get your stuff. It seems like it's intended that you die more regularly in H1Z. Like dying in H1Z1 isn't necessarily the end of the game because of the whole base building thing.
Yes.
So and the crafting and all of that. So I don't know, I've been really enjoying it so far. I'm actually probably gonna play some more tonight.
So I've only played it that first night.
Right.
But I mean, I had a good fucking time. Like, even though I spent so much of it like finding you,
Yeah.
it was still like how fluid it ran. Like, it ran so good.
Yeah.
And no surprise, right? With the what is it, the something Forge or something like that?
Forge Light.
Forge Light. Thank you. We knew from the get go. You know, it's like, oh, they're SOE's making a Daisy survival or a zombie survival game. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, they're gonna use that engine. That's awesome, with hundreds of people on, and they only need to support like 50.
Yeah. Yeah, like when they first were talking about it, it was like Daisy using the planet site. Okay, I'm sold.
Exactly. Yeah.
When can
and
I play
it
this?
shows. It shows when you first log in and you see just how fluid it runs. Like, it's you might cry. You might actually cry.
Yeah.
But like there's vehicles and everything in it. There's bugs and quirks and everything. They got over the hump, their initial hump of the whole the loot gate. I don't even know what they're calling it, but drop gate. I don't know, but like the whole like with drops with weapons and everything. Like, they got over all that, which is fine. But I mean, I had a really good. So that night when we played, do you remember how it ended for me? Anyway, did you log off after I left, or do you stay on?
I logged off pretty soon after you left, but yeah, I remember like you got into you basically decided to attack some people that had decided to leave us alone.
How do you know? How do you know that I attacked them?
Because you said you attacked them.
Oh, I was drunk. So I may have confessed to my crimes. so yes.
Because you were like, I'm gonna shoot this guy. And then 2 seconds later, you were like, "Oh, he got me."
I am not a sly character when I'm intoxicated, am I? so yes. So
You are not James Bond.
you
No.
guys were we were all downstairs. It was like
We were at the barbecue. We were waiting for you to get to the barbecue.
Yeah, you're like, let's go to the barbecue, and I had all that rap meat and everything like that. It's like, yeah, let's go to a barbecue. And so I went up to where the barbecue was for me, and it turned out I was on top of the wrong building. I had no idea where you guys were at, but I actually got there before you guys came up, because you guys ran into the guys with the guns, but they didn't kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know what the conversation was down there, but I was watching the guys go in and out. There was like 3 guys, and so they let you guys live. And then you guys went up and were like, oh, yeah, I'm in the wrong. I got the barbecue. Oh, God, freaking out. And then I was like, you know what? I knew I was going to be logging very soon. So I decided to go and test bullet drop and see just like how far I could launch arrows. And I got really close, man. Like, I got really close to hitting one of these guys. Unfortunately, missing them from that close kind of like draws attention to you, you know?
Yeah.
So they turned and they started firing on my position, and I took cover, and I saw like there was kick up from the ricochets of the rounds, and I thought I was sitting there thinking, oh, that's so cool, right? It's like, oh, it's such a simple stupid thing, but it's like, oh, that's neat, that's in the game already.
Yeah.
But then I peek over the thing and I see them running towards the building. I'm like, oh shit, I'm fucked. But yeah, they came up. I got my bow and arrow ready. Like I was gonna take down all three of them, fucking Robin Hood style or something. I don't even know. And I hit no one with arrows, and they killed me like right away. And that was pretty much it. So yeah, I instigated the whole thing, but it was still fun.
Yeah.
And just creating that mayhem, and then you guys came over to try to like I don't know, like put your thing down.
Yeah, like so me and Shizzle came over, and like I got iced like right away. Like we were trying to get into the building, and like they came down because there was like that flight of stairs that you go up, which has a door right next to it at the base floor, and like I came through the door right as they were coming down those stairs, so they just instantly saw me. I didn't have my bow drawn or anything. They just went, and I was dead. But I respawned relatively nearby. Shizzle hit one of them. I don't remember if he hit one of them or killed one of them or both, like hit one, killed another or something. I don't remember exactly what Shizzle was able to do. Because I realized that I respawned really closely. So I real quick like made a bow and started running over. Shizzle died as I was almost there when Shizzle died. And so I just ran up to the building and I started going in. It was a full on like Rambo moment. Like the guy with the AR came. Shizzle must have killed somebody because there were two guys with guns and one guy.
Yeah,
with an axe
one of the
before.
guys died because I was still like hovering over my corpse or whatever. And he did end up killing one of the guys. I don't know if he did directly or what, but he wounded him and the guy ended up dying. So that's all that matters.
Yeah. So he killed one of the guys that had a gun. There was still a guy with an assault rifle left, and another guy who had an axe. And like I ran in the door. And I saw that they were like I started to go over to the entrance, and I had my bow drawn this time, and like I started going over to that same like opening that I got shot in before, and they were both right there, so they both started shooting. Like the guy with the gun started shooting at me. I was like, oh crap! And for whatever, like I went around the corner, and he decided to run around and chase me. And as soon as I got around the corner, I crouched down and drew my bow. And it took him just long enough to get around the corner that I had it fully drawn by the time he got there. And I just put an arrow right in his face. And he just fell over right away. And I was like, yeah, I got him. And then the guy with the axe chopped me into bits. Because after that, I was like, I've got this bow. And he was just running around me in circles. And I'm like, I cannot possibly aim this bow at this guy. He's moving too fast. Yeah.
See, that's awesome. Like, I hope that with whatever they're doing with the loot spawning, that it doesn't take it from like the story that we just told, because one of those guys had a gun, but the other two didn't. From that to like a Call of Duty or type of approach, Like I don't want everyone to have pistols. Like I want to see people like basically have to work for this stuff. If they call in an airdrop, then that's fine too, because everybody can see it. Like if you've seen Shizzle, I did that last week. Shizzle linked me a video where he had an airdrop coming, and it was like dead of night, and you could still very clearly see the drop happening. So it's not like it's gonna drop and it's just all yours. Yeah. And the map is big enough it's big enough first off to be a pain in the ass to cross. But it's not so big that you think that going out to middle of nowhere and dropping it is really gonna get you free loot.
Yeah, the map is not big enough for there to be much in the way of a middle of nowhere. Like you are always pretty close to something.
Exactly.
And it's just because they've instead of making the like in DayZ, making the map to be kind of like an actual area in Russia, they sat down and said, right, we're going to make a map that is designed for gameplay. So instead of having these big empty expanses between cities, we're going to say there's just little housing developments here and there.
Yeah.
And here's a truck stop, and none of the roads go off into nowhere. Like if you're by a road and you follow the road, you will eventually get to something.
Yeah, so that's another thing too. It's like if you look at a map of HIZZI, like it's basically a square. Like the major highways are straight lines.
Yeah.
for me, it's like it's like, oh man, like I kind of liked DayZ where the roads are kind of twisting and turning. They felt more natural, you know. But in this case, the highways, yeah, they're straight. I mean, even like the side roads are basically like straight lines.
Yeah.
But it just plays into the whole thing that they're targeting an audience that is a bit more casual. Like it's very easy to figure out where you're at in an H1Z1, especially once you get used to the roads and everything. And plus, everything's probably not going to be written in Russian. It becomes very simple to navigate. So you'll be able to make your way back to certain areas. You're not spending all your time basically being lost.
Yeah, and they like do little things like at most of the big major intersections there will be a little map that you can look at that excuse me, that sort of shows like the area you're in a little bit. And yeah, just making it so that like it does sort of make it a little arcadey, I guess, in that sense. Like you aren't going to accidentally get lost running through the wilderness for hours. But I'm fine with that. Getting lost running in the wilderness for hours is boring. I don't know of anybody. I'm sure there's somebody, but I've never heard anyone say, DayZ is so fun. I really like that I got lost for 4 hours and didn't do anything and just ran around and eventually starved to death.
I don't say like it goes from that to and then I got shot and that was like that's when it becomes a really awesome story.
Yeah, like I think there's still plenty of because like it is sort of the concept almost of like an MMO roguelike in a way, where it's like you have your character and if you die, you lose everything. And you still definitely feel attached to your character in H1Z1. It's just not quite so ragey every single time you die because you're like, God damn it, that took me. I was playing that character for 6 weeks and I had all this awesome stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I was doing so well. And then you just rage quit. Like, it's a sort of game that you can lose a character that you've been playing for 6 weeks. And sure, like you haven't died in 6 weeks, but past a certain point, you're not really getting much.
Yep.
You're just building bases at that point, which is really cool.
That's something that I'm curious.
They need to flesh it out a lot more. It's very, very rudimentary right now.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
Well, what kind of amenities does it have?
At the moment, it seems to have walls and stairs and doors with security codes.
The access code tripped me out. I was all like, where's like the power for this keypad?
Yeah. And like the problem with them right now is if you can build a spear, which is relatively easy to build, you can knock down any of the walls. So that's why like when we went to that one base and there was just the door like hanging out in the middle of it that had the access code on it, is because somebody had knocked down all the walls around it and stolen everything that was inside.
Oh.
Yeah. So the base building right now isn't very good. But it's early access. It's the first month of early access. Like, there's a lot of things that I'm expecting that they'll change. I would not be surprised to see them make it a little bit harder to get that first bow. Like, maybe you need to scavenge for something a little bit first, but, like, you can get melee weapons. And melee weapons in H1Z1 are not bad. Like, you can, if you're smart and you know how to get cover, you can defend yourself with an H1Z1, with a melee weapon.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of making because once you close in on somebody, they're really good. And you can like headshot people with them, which is important.
Yeah, and weapon switching is super fast and easy too.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just like in any other game.
It's not like in DayZ where if you scroll the mouse wheel one click too far, instead of using your other thing, you've now decided to reload it with a different type of ammo, or get out of your car, or any number of other stupid
or
things
inspect
that can
whatever
happen.
it is you're looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad. That's what's gonna drive H1Z1's success. I think the worst thing that could have happened to them at launch has already happened, and people are starting to come around to it. Because even with the whole loot thing, people still played it. It's like, dicks. They're doing that. Well, I'm gonna go back to playing.
Yeah,
and they just kept playing it. What I will say is that I don't think that the survival, the zombie survival population or demographic is getting any bigger. But I do think that with what SOE is doing with H1Z1 to appeal to the more casual players, maybe the ones that are burnt out on DayZ, they have access now to that gigantic group of people who played DayZ.
Yeah.
But they're not going to get, like, I don't think they're going to turn like DayZ basically helped mainstream the zombie survival game.
Yeah. But like
H1Z1 is basically the WoW of zombie survival games.
Well, yeah,
with the direction that they're going.
Yeah, exactly. And like that's exactly the point I was about to make. Like if DayZ is EverQuest, then H1Z1 could be WoW in that case. Mm-hmm. And WoW obviously did pretty well for itself.
A little bit, baby.
A little bit. So like depending on what they do in the early access, I think they need to tone down the casualness of it a little bit from the most recent patch, because it is a little like getting guns feels kind of okay at the moment with my limited knowledge of the game. Again, it's possible that I just don't know where to go to get them. But like guns are scarce. They're not like 400 of them in every barn and shit like in some of the servers in DayZ. Ammo is relatively scarce as well. But like getting that first bow means that everything is a ranged fight from the get-go, which sort of adds that weird extra dynamic to it. It makes it a little bit scarier, but also at the same time means it's a little bit easier to work your way around, which makes it less scary in a way. So I would like to see them make it a little bit harder to get that first bow, I think, and just make melee weapons more accessible. Like you can get that stick. Maybe just make the stick do more damage or something. I'm just gonna throw things now.
All they'd really need to do is basically just increase the mats for a bow by like 1 cloth or something. Because
or make your starter clothes not give you quite so much cloth or something.
Yeah, exactly. Because right now it's like you get in, you shred your clothes, and you have a satchel, which is a giant backpack. Well, it's a good sized backpack for starters, and a bow. And arrows. I have to pick up a couple sticks, of course, but bow and arrows.
But the sticks are everywhere. Like those are easy to get.
Yeah. So it's you basically start off with more inventory space and a ranged weapon, and that's I would be okay if they were to remove that, because like sometimes a fire extinguisher saved my ass in DayZ.
Yeah.
And
I think it'd be good if you like started off with like tattered clothes or something, and you can shred each of them into like 1 cloth. And maybe the bow costs a little bit more cloth and a little bit... Like, it's weird that it only takes 1 stick to make a bow somehow.
It's a good size
like,
stick.
Just make it enough that you can... If you go to places and instead of finding backpacks and guns, you find clothes, you can rip up those first few things of clothes that you find instead of putting them on. And that's how you get your starter bow. But you have to have scavenged a little bit first. You don't just get one for being cool.
Or spawning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be totally okay with that.
It's like how in DayZ, you used to spawn with a pistol, and they got rid of that because it took out too much of the early gameplay.
That's right. Yeah, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. The last thing I want to say about H1Z1, just because a lot of people have been concerned about it being pay to win, and you kind of mentioned this earlier as well, to get those airdrops... Like the airdrops is what people are worried about, because everybody has this sort of idea of, well, I can just get an airdrop. I'll just get an airdrop, and then I'll have guns. I could be a fresh spawn. I'm just gonna spend money and get an airdrop, and I'll have guns. If you're a fresh spawn, you will not get your airdrop. It won't happen. Like it avoids being pay to win by virtue of the fact that you already kind of have to be winning if you're ever going to collect what's in the airdrop.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And Shizzle's experience hit that highlight video that he had, like where he went to go, like he made a bunch of arrows and ran over to the spot to where it was coming down, and he was on the other side of a wall, and he sees like 3 armed guys going for it, and Shizzle did not get it.
Yeah.
He did not get it because, like you said, like the people who had basically built themselves up, they got the airdrops. So it's like if you're already arming somebody that is already pretty well armed, it's like, well,
it's not really, actually doing much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're not getting in and basically buying power and becoming that powerful. You're essentially trying to earn it at first.
Yeah,
and then of course when you die, it's gone. So
yeah, and even those guys, like if Shizzle had been there with 2 other people with bows, like they would have been in they would have had a chance at least of taking that out. So and winning that fight. So, yeah, it's very much not like you can buy something for the server basically and hope that you get it.
Yeah.
That's about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So last thing on our list, just real quick. I know you want to talk about this because you put it on the list. So, Robocraft.
Robocraft is so I've not played. I have it since I own it. It's free to play. I have it. I actually thought that I already played this game for Indie for Breakfast a while back. There were like 2 games that came out probably end of 2013 that were very similar. Or maybe beginning of 2014 or something like that. But Robocraft was in like an alpha state. And this other game that I played, I had a blast, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna keep up with this," but I don't think it ever went anywhere. But it was basically like you build yourself like a vehicle, using parts of whatever, and then you can basically run around and do stuff. And every component had its own properties. The gist of the game, if you were to look at it, like the 10,000-foot view, is basically Minecraft with a bit of an engineering spin to it, right? And a twisted metal spin to it also. Now, the twisted metal aspect should be appealing to a lot of people, because that's essentially what it is. You build stuff using these voxel cubes, like that you build like a frame using a voxel, kind of like Space Engineers, right? And then you slap wheels on it, and again, everything has its own properties. I've not played it, so I don't know if like the properties are manageable. Like for example, can I change the type of tires? Can I change the amount of friction of the roll that they have, or maybe how far they could turn, right? Like I don't know what I could change on these because I haven't played it, but you're watching these videos of people playing it, and it's just like, and everyone's talking about it. Like I feel like it's gonna be like the next kind of Minecraft twisted metal like kind of mix, like where people who are already interested in building their own shit, because people build really weird shit in this game, and then you could take it out and test it. Like this is the stuff that I'm doing in Space Engineers right now, where I have this mega battleship that's basically all heavy armor, and it's fucking ribbed, and it's like and I have big ass guns on it, and nobody will ever attack me. Like I actually went into a sandbox and made a copy of it and sat it next to it and let them duke it out on their own, just so I could see what happened, because I never get attacked. And so seeing a game like this where it's like, oh cool, I could build something and then take it out and immediately, like this whole point of the game, go out there and fight other things using your creation. That is cool.
Yeah, I was watching the trailer and I thought, like, this almost looks like a PvP Kerbal Space Program sort of thing.
Right.
Like, if after you build your rocket in Kerbal Space Program, you then fly it up into space and start shooting at other rockets that other people built. Like, yes. It looks pretty cool, and I appreciate that on the Steam page they have for it. I kind of chuckled at this a little bit. They call it a free-to-win MMO, which is like, okay, we're free to play, but we're not pay to win. We're free to win, sort of thing.
Yeah,
it's like, I see what you did there. Mm-hmm. That's moderately clever.
They have a monetization system, but
I'm sure
I haven't seen their cash shop yet. But still, man, the stuff this guy was building. I was watching this video of this guy building. It's got 337,000 views. If you type in Robocraft video, you will see it. But like watch the trailer too. Like some of the stuff they were building, like that scorpion thing. Like you have wheels, you have legs that you can make, like functioning mech legs. You can make things that fly. Like there's so much stuff you could do. And then when you get hit by stuff, the voxels break off. Like you're basically smashing into whatever, if they have like a wall of armor around a wheel, like then if you smash it with like an explosive thing, then it will detonate. It'll basically pieces of the little cuboids will basically fly off in all directions, and you'll take off a chunk of it, and they'll be disabled because of that, but still able to fight. Like that shit is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems really cool. I'm definitely gonna have to check it out. with these sorts of games, I typically end up going, "Oh, I've figured out how to make a little. I've made a penis, and I'm gonna go attack people with my robo penis." And then I immediately get dominated, and I go, "Well, everyone knows how to play this way better than I do, and I'm sad now. I will never be able to beat anyone with my robo penis."
No, there's still time. There's still time. There's still time.
I have a friend who's been playing it, and like every so often he'll make little videos of it because he just runs into somebody who made something cool. But it seems like every time he says, "Oh, this guy made this giant cat, and he was attacking us with this giant cat," I mean, it sucked because it was a dumb idea, so we immediately won. But that kind of turns me off from it a little bit. Not enough to not try it, obviously, but like it makes me a little bit like I'm gonna have to keep an eye out for that when I try it, because like I want to be able to make something like, for me, like having a game that's based on UGC like this, I want to make something that has some personality to it. I don't want to be like, "Yeah, I made the best combination of these tires and lasers and shit."
But you can.
I know that you can, and I know that you can make stuff with personality. My concern is just, if I decide I'm going to make a giant walker, I'm going to build a BattleTech mech. I'm going to build a Mad Cat in this, or Timberwolf, depending on whether you follow the clans or the inner sphere. But I'm gonna make a Mad Cat, and actually Mad Cats in this game suck. There's no possible way for me to make a Mad Cat that's actually any good.
Like
shit.
Your Doc Brown approach to the way I see it, if you're gonna make a time machine, why not make it with some style?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I want to build a fucking DeLorean and shoot lasers at people from a DeLorean. And go 88 miles an hour.
Fire trail, and then when they walk, they burn. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm hoping that it will allow me to do that and actually have it still. Like, I'm hoping that all of the stories that my friend who plays this has been telling me are because the person that made it
is bad.
Yeah, like they're bad. Like they made their awesome cat and went, "Well, that's good enough," and forgot to put lasers on it or something.
Or put like the reactor on the tail or something that's just like exposed and just out there waving around. Hey, shoot me! Yes. I think there's games like this. Like I feel like there's always ways to take that fringe idea and turn it into a winner if you're good at games. And that's the thing. It's like there's always gonna be something someone's gonna be able to figure out like the min-max build. You know, like a unicycle with tons of armor around it. And, you know, not even a gun, just spikes, and you just run into shit all day. You know, like someone's gonna figure something like that out. But like if you're a good player, like you can build something to counter these things and to, you know, basically have fun with it. I mean, this is why I continue to play a Prot Warrior, because I feel like it's it's in situations where you shouldn't. You know, it's like I feel like, hey, you know what? It's like, I probably shouldn't be here doing this, but I'm having fun, and I feel like it's moderately effective. I will never kill this guy, but he'll also never kill me.
Checkmate.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so I will definitely be logging some time. And you know what? If it's awesome and it's fun, I will probably put it on the list again next week.
Yeah. You mentioned building fringe ideas, and now I just want to play this game and see if I can build like a giant Walter Bishop head and attack people with that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Just roll it around. It just rolls like a Katamari.
Oh, God.
That'll be one of those ideas that then my friend makes a video of and goes, This guy made a giant rolling Walter Bishop head. It sucked, but he made it.
Yeah, like there's stuff that I want to build in Space Engineers that now it's like, well, I could probably build that in Robocraft and actually go out and like kill people with it. Like, so it's dumb, like stupid ideas. Because it's mostly flying. Obviously, Space Marines, Space Engineers, it's all like flying. It's like I want to build two things. I want to build Dr. Wily's little UFO that he has in Mega Man 2, and I think even 3. It's a simple little UFO, and then I want to take that same concept and basically recolor it, reskin it, and make Bowser's flying clown head thing. Like, I just want to make these two things, and then I also want to make like a giant Mega Man, like a 2D Mega Man, and the gun actually shoots. You know, just have him flying around shooting shit. Like, I want to make that stuff. I want to make all these cool things. And you know, fuck it, why not go out there? And I feel like the 2D Mega Man thing would be even funnier, like on the dedicated server, just have it float by people. They'll be like, is that Mega Man? All right. Well then.
Excellent.
But yeah, it's you could take your creativity, you could make something crazy and weird, and then basically take it out there and either be extremely shitty or if you're good at games, which I think you're pretty good at games, you might be able to be successful.
Hooray!
No.
Yeah. All right. I think we're out of stuff, and I know you want to go watch How I Met Your Mother.
God damn.
You were telling me how important it was that you go watch How I Met Your Mother.
That's really close. So I see. How I Met Your Mother, How to Get Away with Murder. Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's what I said.
I can see that. Yeah.
How I Met Your Mother.
You're right. I can see that. Yeah. Hey man, it's the first episode back from their winter break, and some shit happened, and it is a really awesome show. It's definitely not a show you could get in right in the middle. Unfortunately, it's not one of those. You'd be extremely confused if you try to watch it from like the middle.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of Neil Patrick Harris, so
yeah,
I should definitely watch a few episodes.
Should. Yeah, you should. You should. Thanks, man. Thanks. Well, I'm gonna go do that then. Fine. All right.
Fine.
Bye.
Fine.